This is news analysis coming to you live on Politics and Business TV, Abuja. Many thanks for joining us. The headlines. Tinubu lays the foundation for First Bank's new eco-friendly headquarters. Sexual harassment. Senate dismisses Natasha's petition. Kogi Senator shuns the panel. And Tinubu mandates ministers to hold quarterly public briefings. On the business news, premium motor spirits costs may drop further as crude prices fall. And now to the foreign space, where Trump issues last warning to Hamas as U.S. confirms direct hostage talks. Details shortly. Welcome back, and thank you once again for joining us on News Analysis, coming to you on Politics and Business TV. My name is Idris Amina. Now the details. President Bola Tinubu on Wednesday has laid the foundation for the new eco-friendly headquarters of the First Bank Group in Eco-Atlantic City, which he said symbolizes Nigeria's ambition and progress. Tinubu, who was represented by Vice President Kashim Shettima, made this observation at the groundbreaking ceremony for the eco-friendly headquarters of the bank. The bank has revealed that the building is a 40-story edifice set to be the tallest building in Nigeria and an engineering and environmental delight due to its technological advance, eco-friendly and sophisticated construction, which would set a new standard for the financial services sector in Africa. Shettima, in his statement, said, "Today we lay the foundation for a monumental structure in Nigeria's financial landscape. The First Bank iconic star, a symbol of our nation's progress and ambition. This star will stand as a testament to our economic strength and vitality." And also, the governor of Lagos State, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, during his goodwill message, presented the certificate of approval to the bank for it to commence construction immediately. Moving on, the Senate on Wednesday dismissed the sexual harassment petition filed by Kogi's lawmaker Senator Natasha Akpoti against the president of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, describing it as dead on arrival. The Red Chamber described her action as a violation of the Senate's standing rules. This is as Akpoti shown the Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Positions, which was conducting a review of her face-off with Akpabio over certain arrangements in the Senate. The Kogi senator had in an interview with the media alleged that Akpabio made sexual advances towards her during a visit to his residence in his home state of Akwa Ibom on December 8, 2023. The allegation came days after the Senate unanimously voted to refer her to the Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions for protesting the new sitting arrangement in the upper chamber. And now the presidency on Wednesday outlined new conditions for the quarterly stakeholders and citizens engagement meeting, says the federal government is to commitments, transparency, inclusivity and citizen participation in governance. The guidelines issued through the Central Delivery Coordination Unit under the Office of the Special Advisor to the President on Policy and Coordination mandate stricter requirements for ministries to ensure these meetings serve as genuine platform for public engagement. According to the CDCU, the engagement meetings were introduced as a deliverable for every ministry in response to President Bola Tinubu's directive that all ministers regularly communicate government initiatives, beneficial programs and policies to the public. The meetings, it added, are expected to enhance the understanding of government policies while preventing misinterpretation. As part of the newly established conditions, each ministry must hold at least one stakeholder or citizen engagement meeting every quarter with the minister personally leading the session alongside the permanent secretary and other top officials. The CDCU emphasized that the engagement must be a high-level interaction where government officials not only inform the public but also receive direct feedback from stakeholders, which would be taken into consideration for policy adjustments. You're watching news analysis on Politics and Business TV. We'll go on a quick break and more news when we return. Stay with us. Welcome back. It's good to know you're still with us, and this is news analysis on Politics and Business TV Abuja. And now let's move on to business news, where the price of premium motor spirits, popularly known as petrol, may be on a downward slope if the crude oil prices continue to slip. According to reports, this will also strengthen the naira against the dollar in the foreign exchange markets. Oil prices fell about 2% to a 12-week low this week amid reports that OPEC will proceed with the planned output increase in April. Brent futures fell $1.19 or 1.6% to settle at $71.62 a barrel, while the United States West Texas Intermediate crude fell $1.39 or 2% to settle at $68.37. Reuters reports that those were the lowest closes for Brent since December 6th and the WTI since December 9th. It was also reported that the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries and allies like Russia, known as the OPEC, decided to proceed with a planned April oil output increase. Players in the Nigerian downstream oil sector have said the crude oil price and the exchange rates are the major determinants of the cost of refined petroleum products. And now to the foreign space, where the U.S. President Donald Trump has issued what he called the last warning to Hamas to release the hostages being held in Gaza. Hamas accused the U.S. President of encouraging Israel to break the ceasefire deal currently in effect between the two sides. Trump's statement came just hours after the White House confirmed it was holding direct talks with Hamas over the remaining hostages. Washington has until now avoided direct engagement with the group, and there is a long-standing U.S. policy against having direct contact with entities it lists as terrorist organizations. In his social media post, Trump said there would be hell to pay if the hostages were not released, while not specifying the nature of the support he was sending Israel. It is not the first time Trump has threatened Hamas. In December, he said there would be all hell to pay if hostages were not released by the time he took office. The post came after Trump met with a group of hostages in the White House who had been recently released under the ceasefire. Meanwhile, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt confirmed the U.S. has been negotiating directly with Hamas to try to secure the release of the hostages. Join us shortly as we move on to today's topic, which is on Nigeria ranks third among Africa's top 10 debtors. Stay with us. Welcome back. Now let's move on to today's focus, which is on the report that Nigeria ranks third among Africa's top 10 debtors. The African Export and Import Bank has said Nigeria is one of the 10 African countries that together account for 69% of the continent's total external debt. In its latest report titled African Debt Outlook, a Ray of Optimism, Afreximbank has said the continent's external debt levels remain elevated, primarily due to the limited development of domestic financial markets and high interest rates. The bank further highlighted challenges and opportunities facing African nations in managing their debts. With me to discuss this sensitive topic today is Mr. Wale Joshua, a chartered accountant and an economist. Good afternoon to you, sir, and thank you for joining us on today's program.
Good afternoon, and nice having me today.
Thank you. Now let's begin with the report that the Afreximbank said Nigeria is one of the 10 African countries that together accounts for 69% of the continent's total external debt. What would be your take as an economist on this sensitive matter?
I thank you for bringing up this topic, and it's a wake-up call to our leaders to do the right thing and make sure that we are on the right track. First and foremost, the volume of monies which Nigeria controls is a little large, and not as large as many other countries. Over the years, the GDP of Nigeria is being contended by many countries. South Africa has been the largest GDP at a point in time, while Egypt has equally been the largest GDP at a point in time. This means that Nigeria has not controlled 60% or 65% of the GDP or of the continental revenue. So it's a little surprise that we have this quantum of money in Nigeria's book as loans and borrowings. This makes it a little surprise, and this speaks to the fact most of the loans previously gotten were not used for productive purpose. If they were used for productive, been enough to service the debt, not only to service the debt, but to gain returns, which will be enough to service the debt and equally retain part of it. Country.
All right, so let's move on to the limited development of domestic financial markets and high interest rates are classified as the primary reasons why the external debt levels remain elevated. What, in your opinion, could be the solution to this?
It's regulatory, because if the Central Bank of Nigeria has regulated the domestic financial institution not to give much of these loans to the government institutions, the domestic loans will not be as high as we have seen it. That's number one. Number two is that it's a little cheaper to get loans domestically, because we are faced with the same exposure, rather than getting loans from abroad and being faced with foreign exchange problem. So it's a little cheaper getting those loans within, and it is easier for banks to lend, financial institutions to lend the government monies, knowing fully well that they will receive their monies from frontline charges, and it's a little secured. So there is a little will on the part of the financial to give government loans because of the security it involves, and while it is a burden on the Central Bank of Nigeria to regulate this financial institution so that they can limit what they give to the government, because as you are private sector institutions, a part of this, and you are as well depriving the business growth that we need to finance our GDP. Because if you are financing government, you are financing infrastructure and you are financing recurrent expenditure. While if you are financing business, you are financing retained earnings and profitability. So it's enough for the Central Bank of Nigeria to set its priority in ensuring that government gets its own fair share, where businesses are positioned to get their own fair share, rather than competing with the government that has better security than the private institution. That, as it said, we will realize, if you look critically into that, you realize that there's a shift from the use of ways and means to the direct borrowing. In the past, we used to put up the ways and means. The federal government applies to the central bank to get the ways and means. But since this government doesn't have appetite to ways and means, they try resulting into the loans agreement between the financial institutions. This will always compete with the private sector companies, which will reduce their ability to increase and expand. Not only to increase and expand, and at times to operate, because it's either you borrow funds to finance your working capital or to finance your assets, which is expansion, if you are not taking it for personal reasons. So if that is on the desk, I think is a shift between the ways and means to favor the financial borrowings from financial institutions. Whether it's to favor them or not, government has the obligations of paying, and you will know that the interest rate is high as of today. No company, no financial institution will give you any loan below the national interest inflation rate. So in order to cover for the time value of money, they will have to set their interest rate a little above the inflation rate. That, as it may, it is good for Nigeria as an entity to finance its need through productivity and through revenue accruing from production, from profits, that's taxation, and from sales of natural resources.
Yes, and less of imports.
Yes. So we should look within our means, rather than financing the white elephant project that will not bring returns. If the project will bring returns, why not finance it with loan? But if it will not bring returns,
exactly,
we don't finance.
Yes. So before we go quickly, I'm a little bit concerned about the title of this report, African Debt Outlook, a ray of optimism. Do you think there's a ray of optimism when the debts continue, the African debts continue to remain elevated due to limited development of domestic financial? And according to the title of this report, they say there is a ray of optimism. I think these two are contrasting. I don't know what you have to say to it as an economist.
Anyway, the ray of optimism in any loan has to do with the leadership quality. The viability of any loans taken by any African country is as viable as their leaders. And if you look at the leadership structure of Africa, I think Africans are becoming more conscious about their leaders than Nigeria has sustained their democratic process over the years, and this has given a kind of idea of good leadership. So no matter what, loans are tied to the lead. Your leaders can present anything to the National Assembly, get the loans. When the loans are on grant, they can choose to either manage it well or manage to service some other interests. Yes. So if the interests are of returns in nature, are viable projects in nature, I think there is a ray of hope. But if there is no leadership, good leadership quality to drive this loan, I beg to disagree with that title.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Wale Joshua, for joining us on today's program. We appreciate.
You are welcome. Thank you.
And that will be the size of our program today. Thank you for joining us. My name is Idris Amina. Bye for now.